Hello there, and welcome to a pretty rare at this point Lichess stream. I think in particular this Lichess recap thing that we've done probably hasn't been done for like 2 or 3 years at this point, so extremely rare. My name's Theo, and as the thing underneath my picture says, I'm the Director of Operations here at Lichess. Generally, what we're planning to do today is just go over some of the stuff that's happened at Lichess probably since around 2025. The first hour or so will be updates from 2025 until about now, and we'll hear from various different areas in Lichess, which we'll touch on a little bit more. And then probably after that, maybe for the second hour or so, or kind of depending how long we get good questions for, and everyone behind the scenes can take it. We'll answer some questions. So there's certain topics that it's not possible to answer, like moderation or individual account history. But generally we'll do our best to answer as many of the questions which are sent our way. So if you're watching this, you probably already know Lichess pretty well, and the history of Lichess and what Lichess is about. But just a very quick summary, Lichess was founded and developed by Thibault Duplessis, a French developer who set Lichess up really just kind of as a hobby, and he wanted to just kind of, play around with chess and the chess website and a new language called Scala. And from there, some people began using Lichess, began communicating with Thibault, asking for new features to be added, and it's just really taken off from there. And in 2016, officially became a French charity, an association under the law of 1901, and just kind of continued. We're now, I think, we're now the second largest chess website in the world. And fully open source, fully free, no adverts, no trackers, very strong philosophies, which again, we'll touch on a little bit later, where Thibault will actually also highlight why he came to that and his own thoughts on that, etc. So with the updates that we'll have, as I touched on earlier, we kind of have 5 main areas. Those are development, sysadmin and infrastructure, moderation, content and community, and operations, which is kind of everything other than that. And each of those areas now essentially have a coordinator who coordinates that area. Not every area has like an official coordinator title, but there's always someone who kind of takes on that role. So we'll be hearing from many of them later. So many of those coordinators and some of the people who work in those areas. The first one that we'll touch on will actually be content and community. So even though it kind of has 2 headings, we've kind of technically just lumped it together as one of our main areas. But it's a really big area of ours that we have in Lichess, and it actually has 2 coordinators. So there's one content coordinator, which also covers all of the broadcasts that we do. And there's also one for community. So that covers a lot of our kind of community events and tournaments, and all of the other stuff behind the scenes. In terms of broadcasts, following changes in the chess kind of area with Chess Bomb and then Chess24 kind of no longer being around, we really took up the mantle and focused on broadcasts, and I think we've really become the home of tournaments for chess. So for example, if you look across 2025, we averaged showing around 110 chess tournaments every month. So basically, if a chess event is happening anywhere in the world with DGT boards, there's a really good chance that we're showing it. And the reach with tournaments is now so large that if other, we've now got such a large reach within chess tournaments that like a lot of chess broadcasting software, other platforms and so on regularly use our APIs to show tournaments because we basically have so many of them at this point. And I think a really large part of the growth with broadcast, which has just gone like year on year, like up, it's crazy, is because we provide a lot of open source broadcasting software. So a lot of DGT operators can just rely on the Lichess servers to host their moves directly. And that's a really nice software initiative that's been done by the team overall. And that means that they can use Lichess servers to host the moves rather than another layer, which, despite some pressures that Lichess not be used by some other platforms out there rather than Live Chess Cloud, for example, it's still a really good way that we get like a lot of tournaments and a lot of broadcasts. But a lot of work goes into broadcasts overall. So a really massive thanks to all of the broadcasters and the broadcasting team, including Armstark, who is the content coordinator, Sergio, Shortcuts, Inked, and many more. Those are just some of the main names, so to speak. In terms of content, we unfortunately couldn't get Armstark today, just quite short notice to give a recap. But content's been very important to me recently. Some of you might have seen some of the interviews that I've been doing with players recently. So that kind of overall visibility for the players and for chess, and also just for the charitable purposes, getting chess more out there, promoting the sport, promoting the athletes. That's been very important for us. And actually, around 7.5% of our annual revenue, of our annual costs, we spend directly on things like commentary, annotations, articles, editing, research, and interviews. So, for example, over 2025, we worked with a whole load of titled players, a whole load of grandmasters, IMs, WGMs, WIMs, WFMs, WCMs, the whole gamut, basically. And I think that's a really important way as well that Lichess gives back to the sport in terms of the visibility, the promotion, but also for paid opportunities within chess. And aside from those kind of opportunities, we also have a team of a whole load of volunteers who have been helping us with kind of social media every day. Making, for example, short textual updates, things that used to be called tweets, and as well as things like image posts, short videos, editing, graphic design. And, we've really made a concerted effort over the last year to focus on that video format rather than live streaming, which we did, a lot more in the past. And I actually used to write a lot of the articles that you see on Lichess. But now the team has grown and we have, several contributors who can help write the articles. I've been trying to bolster the social presence of Lichess with interviews a bit more recently. So yeah, content, very important to us, and definitely been seeing us, I think, a bit more with videos rather than live streaming. But yeah, I mean, it's been pretty successful, the whole kind of, doing shorts and leaning more into social media recently. And I think, the reaction on the videos have been really overwhelming and very positive from a lot of people, who are fans from the Lichess community. And I mean, also people like, Sagar, top grandmasters and their teams, other, chess professionals have all been very supportive and warm. So it's been very nice and overwhelming. But yeah, super grateful for it. And, I think it shows ultimately what an amazing community we have. And a large part of that has to be thanks to Fishy Vishy, who's also known as Mark. And here's actually our community coordinator who will give a short update now.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mark Nassar. I'm a Lebanese Canadian chess player, organizer, and a coach. I'm the community coordinator here at Lichess, and it basically means I'm overseeing all aspects of the community. Basically, the first time I found it was in 2011 or 2012 when it was just a nascent site. And yeah, I played like a few games with my dad on there. But yeah, that was a bit before I properly started chess. I started chess in April 2012. After that point, I was hooked. So that was when I first started, and I got recruited in 2017. I got into the team for being an organizer, basically, because that was around the time I was organizing the first Crazy House World Championship. Mainly as the community coordinator, I'm of course responsible for events. I'm like taking care of the nitty-gritty details, all of the different like aspects of the events, all of that stuff. All different events like our titled arena, which of course our pride and joy, chess mood currently, streamer arena, everything. I'm also doing blogs. Yeah, so like the blog curation you see nowadays, I'm taking care of that also, like making sure like our homepage is cohesive, makes sense, all that stuff. Also Gotham, game of the month. So yeah, streamers also, like everything that has to do with streamers, making sure our streamers are well taken care of. And one particular long-term project that I'm working on and off on, it's Class, which is like our current tool for teachers. And yeah, I'm hoping to improve that. So collecting different community feedback. If you're a coach, if you have feedback on Class, please let us know. I'm collecting them from the forums, from Discord, from all sorts of different places. Yeah, and also of course variants. So like I'm on and off active in that area as well. Of course, like I was a former number one at Feechecks, so like this is an area that's dear to my heart. What does my average week look like? Yeah, like so basically mainly my tasks in the week are blogs and events, I would say. But all of these other tasks I mentioned, like they creep up from time to time. But mainly it's, I think, blogs and events, basically. What have I got up to? Yeah, so in the content blogging landscape, like I've helped kind of create this new blogging curation system we have. I also helped do some changes on the streamers side. Variants, we implemented a lot of different things for variants on the community side, of course. I don't mean dev wise. Similarly, yeah, like game of the month, I've changed a lot of the way things work there. A lot of like the different areas I'm responsible for, I've already changed some things, like the way they operate. That's basically what I've been up to. Hobbies, yes, and interests. Oh, okay, yeah. In terms of interests, like they're super wide, super vast. I've kind of built myself as some kind of polymath aspirant. I like all subjects basically. I'd like to get better at everything. Yeah, like of course you can't do that nowadays with all the like different knowledge out there. Apart from chess, my second calling is medicine or kind of medical stuff, but I'm not a doctor, just to be clear. Third also is writing, because I've already written a novel. Shameless plug. Currently also I'm like interested in this really old game back in 2009. It's Who Has the Biggest Brain. Like yeah, that's a really fun game. I'm getting back into it. It was like recently an emulator for it was found, and yeah, like if you ever played that game, yeah, you should check it out. It's quite fun. And so yeah, like music, I'm listening to all kinds of music. My taste is similar to Lucas's taste. Yeah, so that's about it. So basically, I'm like kind of interested in everything.
Yep. So it was great to hear from Mark sharing his thoughts and experience there. Yeah, really great to hear. And I mean, in terms of the events that he spoke about as well, I mean, just recapping that again, I mean, we hosted a whole load of events last year, and you know, we really hope to have many events this year too. So last year, for example, we had the FIDE Social Chess Day Marathon, where I think a lot of people got their little blue trophies on their user profiles. I know I definitely did. We had the World Corporate Chess Championship, which was organized by FIDE. The online qualifiers were played on Lichess. And so far this year, actually, we also had another initiative from FIDE set up by the Women's Commission, which was the FIDE Queens and Princesses individual event. And this was actually the most successful event that they had in their history, and it was really heartwarming in particular to hear the feedback from a lot of the girls who took part in that and said that they felt that having that opportunity to play online with people from around the world, really gave them a big boost of confidence, and was just a great experience for them overall. So it was really lovely that we could facilitate that. And aside from FIDE events, there have been the Chess Mood streamer events as well, where their team has generously provided major prize funds both in 2025 and now also in 2026. And we've already had a couple of those editions already this year. We've had long-term collaboration with the Kazakhstan Chess Federation, who hosted multiple online events going back from around 2023. And also the Sharjah Chess Club, where we've had a very long-standing collaboration with them also. Unfortunately, this year, due to issues within the region, they've had to postpone when their tournament would normally be, but hoping it'll be later this year instead, and that we'll still collaborate there too. Last year, we also signed a memorandum of understanding with the Arab Chess Federation. And they've had some pretty big online events as well, in particular for women players within the Arabic-speaking world, which again was very nice for us to help ensure went ahead. And this year, quite recently, we had a very major schools initiative based in the United Arab Emirates, and there were actually over 7,000 children based in the Emirates who are playing in those tournaments. So a really massive initiative there, and again, really, really awesome that Lichess was used to help facilitate that experience, and for the children to take part in that tournament on Lichess. And of course, there's also our own events as well, which would be a disservice not to mention. So our own titled arenas, the Lichess Bundesliga, the streamer arenas. We now have a Rapid and Bullet League. There's 45-45, of course, can't go without them. They're fantastic. And we also have the game of the month as well. So yeah, a lot of stuff that Mark is looking after and helping to run, and a lot of things that I think overall are a very net positive for the community overall. Just touching on what Mark said, I think overall the kind of philosophy that we have is that online chess should really support and help grow over the board chess. Ultimately, they're kind of two sides of the same coin, like a very healthy grassroots chess, where you have people who are able to take opportunities, OTB, and play. They will ultimately become, the elite players of tomorrow, the Javikis and Darovs, the Magnus Carlsens, etc., the Gukeshes. So I think from our perspective, it's really important that online tries to help OTB as much as possible to keep that kind of grassroots level flourishing. So where possible, to give them bigger visibility, to ensure that they have more players, and don't ultimately overshadow and compete with them, but find ways to work with them. So that's pretty much the update in content and community. So quite a long one. Another very topical one that a lot of people ask a lot of questions about is moderation. So we'll touch on the second area now, which is moderation. Again, we'll have another update from our moderation coordinator. But just giving a quick recap before that, moderation is a really huge area for us. It's probably the biggest in terms of regular contributions that our team and volunteers dedicate to the site. In 2025, I think we had something like just under 3 million automated and analog moderation actions that were taken. So, a really huge amount. And the reports generally come from both our automated systems and also the community. So if anybody in the community sees something which doesn't feel right or makes you feel uncomfortable or unsafe, which includes usernames as well, it's very important to send a report, because that's the only way, or it's the way that we're most likely to see it quickly. And it really helps kind of keep Lichess great, and people who send consistent good reports and good eggs themselves, who try to help others, they're often noticed by the team as well, and sometimes proactively approached. But yeah, so in terms of moderation, we have over 100 moderators. Many of them are volunteers, but it's a really important area for us. So apart from dedicating development time and resources into automated systems, which we did as early as 2014, and reinforcing those as well, this is the area that also has the most regular paid contributors. So we have 12 regular stipendees with a moderation coordinator who also oversees that area. So without further ado, I've just got a message here from Arnab, who's our moderation coordinator, who'll highlight his story, his role, and impact to the team.
Hi, I'm Arnab Roy, currently working as the moderation coordinator at Lichess. I've been part of the team's journey for more than 5 years now, and at the current position for just about 2 years, I think. Yeah, that sounds right. I see my role as someone who needs to sort of filling the blanks for various Lichess moderation needs, as in, I try to identify areas that may need a helping hand and I participate and move things forward there. And I'm really grateful in that regard to have a team, which I would say compact yet highly competent group of people who helps keep things running on a day-to-day basis. What works really well in our favor is that our organization structure is really flat. So people are encouraged to work on areas they feel they are most comfortable in or they feel they might be most productive at. Now that in turn helps keep the morale high within the team, which is a big plus obviously. Now with such a small team, the challenge has always been to a degree to keep our buzz factor in mind. And that's not just with quantity of moderation or the volume, but also with experience that is associated with individuals in the team. One way I try to counter it is by documenting institutional knowledge as much as possible whenever possible. And other than that, I work on writing standard operating procedures to further smoothen out some of our operations. My work is supported by our internally elected moderation council. So together with the council members, we try to come up with various strategies and ideas to further streamline our moderation process. Now, this is a very important aspect because we need to squeeze out every bit of efficiency we can given the limited resources we have. As an organization, we try to keep a human moderator in loop whenever possible. As an example, I can say, so each of the appeals we receive, they are reviewed by at least one human moderator before it gets replied to. But in most cases, multiple moderators come together to consult the case before replying. Similarly, for communication reports, there are two primary actions taken. Either there is a warning or there is a mute. And all these actions are taken out by human moderators. Now, if you look at numbers, on a quarterly basis, we, we do 100 cases of such communication reports. So one can imagine the number of moderator hours that needs to be assigned for this specific task only. And for the numbers of cheat and boost in the same quarterly parameter, we have 50K and 25K respectively. And for the appeals I have just talked about, on a daily basis, we are getting 120 to 130 appeals. So yeah, we are thriving for efficiency whenever possible without sacrificing on quality, of course. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for now. And stay safe and peace out.
So a really massive thank you to Arnab and to the moderation team for keeping Lichess fun, safe, and ultimately an enjoyable place to be. But I think also a big thank you as well to the community who, generally are extremely chill overall and, support us and help us to keep the community clean overall. So again, it's because of the great work of Arnab and the moderators and also the community that, despite the hundreds of millions of games that we have each month, let alone each year, in terms of moderation actions, it's, quite a reasonable amount, to around 2.8 million. And that's a big thanks to the community as well. I think we also should touch on sysadmin and infra, our third area. I mean, this is a very important area, the first of the technical areas that we'll cover, with Thibault, who will also give an update on the development side, I think, after this one. But sysadmin and infra, this is technically a slightly different area from development. Ultimately, if Lichess wasn't online, very few people would actually be able to enjoy everything that Lichess offers. And we have a very unique sort of situation where our charity president, who is the kind of legal head of the charity, or president if you don't want to speak French, which is completely understandable, they're also our systems administrator, and they have been for around a decade. And our president, Luca Bonnet, he's worked tirelessly over that time to make Lichess have excellent uptime and run extremely efficiency. It's actually really hard to stress just how important and critical Luca has been overall. The way that Lichess has been set up and the architecture that it has, well beyond my knowledge, well beyond my pay grade. But the fact that it relies on these kind of dedicated bare metal servers rather than shared cloud servers, which are often more expensive, our costs are actually pretty low when you just look at the pure server costs themselves. And it's very impressive that the server cost is actually so streamlined and efficient in that way, when these servers are handling hundreds of thousands of users who are online concurrently, tens of thousands of actions every second, with all of those moves being sent and going through the server and then received, complex lag compensation calculations, being carried out, checking the player's online status and all of that sort of thing, all running incredibly smoothly overall. So that a lot of that is a huge thanks to Luca Bonnet. And to put it into context, various online comparison sites which kind of look at the traffic that a platform has, those pretty regularly say that we're in around the top 300 websites in the world in terms of online traffic. So assuming those things are accurate, which they're probably not, the way that they take the calculation, in our case, that's probably a lower estimate because we're against things like trackers and cookies, which is often how these websites kind of estimate those numbers. But even using that potentially lower estimate of the online traffic and volume that Lichess receives, being in the top 300 websites in the world is already higher than, for example, Forbes, the Wall Street Journal, and even the web version of Duolingo, not their mobile app, of course, but the web version. So if you think about that, I'm pretty sure that Forbes, the Wall Street Journal, the web version of Duolingo, their server costs are probably not as low as ours. They're probably not as efficient as ours, where thanks to Luca and the other sysadmins and all of the contributors there, our annual server costs have managed to be around $70,000 a year for several years now. So, really hard to overstate the impressive efficiency that Luca and the team there have managed to get out from the servers. But Luca, who is also our charity president, he can say it better himself and share a bit more about the technical topics there. So we've got something from Luca as well now.
Hello, I'm Luca Venet. I'm currently the president of the Lichess charity, and I'm also the sysadmin-in-chief, let's say. And I live between France and Morocco. I've been a sysadmin professionally since 2007, so that's quite a while now. And I got into Lichess specifically because a friend of mine told me, let's play chess on this website, use dark theme and create your account and play. And then after a few weeks or months, I got interested in how the sense is made, as we say. And so I started knowing Thibault on what was the time IRC. which was the communications channel used by Lichess back in the day. And so after a while, he said, instead of asking any questions, come fix them. And that's how I got into the team, basically. Yeah, as a charity president, the main work is dealing with all the administrative side, like French paperwork, French payroll, getting the taxes, dealing with the content on an official matter, and generally signing papers in the name of the charity. On the sysadmin side, it's mostly trying to keep up with the growth and the change in technologies that Lichess is facing, like being ready for when Thibault says, oh, by the way, we need a new server for this service or this service. And also dealing with the not too frequent but still annoying outages and attacks we're sometimes facing, which can happen at the middle of the night, usually. Oh, I got woken up as the attack is happening, or as the outage is happening, usually, yeah. We have a monitoring system in place that can page some phone numbers, including me and Thibault mostly. Hopefully, the average week is usually pretty calm. Just applying security patches and checking that everything looks good on the servers, no errors, no weird hardware issues. But yeah, you're not in this job for the average week. You're here because when the week is not average, things can go wrong very, very quickly. And you need all the expertise you have to untangle the situation. Oh, I get a great sense of pride from working on Lichess because on the infra sysadmin side, I can see how much traffic we're dealing with so little hardware costs, all considered, in exchange, because we're serving tens of thousands of people simultaneously with what amounts to like 5 or 6 big servers. And that's great to see that we can still scale stuff without spending $500,000 a month in cloud services. I see Lichess in 5 to 10 years to be like bigger in scale in all metrics that matter, like hardware, community, number of games played, but still keeping the same flame lit inside itself. Like you still want to bring free chess and a good quality website that can be used by every phone and every terminal on the planet to everybody possible. I listen to music almost all the time, from all genres of music, from black metal to classical music to techno stuff. And I also like reading, mostly sci-fi. I'm almost finishing The Expanse. Like I'm like 20 pages to the end. Wow, probably top 5 books I've ever read, top 5 sagas I've ever read. The scale, the themes, the adventures. Oh, it's great. Really, it's great. It's a long read because it's like 9 books, but yeah, worth it.
So a big thanks again to Luca and all of the sysadmins for making sure that everyone can use Lichess reliably and that it has, you know, good uptime. So just as a reminder, we've got 2 more areas of Lichess that we'll cover as an update, and it's been great to see a lot of the enthusiasm and encouragement that people have been sharing in the chat. And we'll get to the questions that are being asked in the second half. So after we've, you know, heard from the next 2 areas, then there'll be a kind of more open kind of Q&A sort of session as well, where a lot of the great questions that you're asking we'll touch on and try to cover as best as we can. So in terms of the 4th area, we'll touch on the one that I think a lot of people have been waiting for, which is development. You know, our founder and our main developer, Thibault Duplessis, he leads this area essentially. And, Thibault, of course, founded the website around 16 years ago, and he's worked on it ever since, though with increasingly, large number of contributors and other developers who also help him. And the kind of original vision for the site and the philosophy, that's all really down to Thibault. So in my opinion, Thibault is very much kind of like a visionary when it comes to that side of the website as well. Very inspirational in my personal opinion. His work has recently been supported by another full-time developer, Vincent, who is the mobile developer, as well as I touched on, several regular developer contributors who, all make incredible contributions to the site and a lot of great updates that we all really like. So, I mean, some of the biggest changes, for example, last year, after a year in beta, the new mobile app has actually been released. So, go to the mobile app store and look for the Lichess app with the black background rather than the white background, because that's the new one, and eventually the one with the white background will no longer be supported. No idea exactly on when that will be, but at some point down the line, it'll no longer be function and potentially might even be removed from the App Store. So make sure to move over to the new Lichess app with the black background if you haven't already. There's lots of features and improvements which come to it all of the time. You should check out actually lichess.org/changelog because there are, every month there are new updates and new things being added to the new mobile app. So make sure to get it. It also has broadcasts, ways to follow tournaments, and all of the sort of features there, where, even some top players in the world are saying on social media that it's the best way to follow tournaments. So yeah, make sure to get it. Over 2025 on the website rather than the mobile side, we also did a big overhaul to introducing FIDE pages. So it's now possible to see OTB players' ratings, to see their tournament history, and find the PGN where they played on Lichess. And we've also added an open sourced or an open licensed image of the player as well. In some places, it's also possible to for the player to link their Lichess account also to their Lichess FIDE page as well. So that's been a great thing to see. And of course, a very big thing has been the beta release as well of the Lichess tutor feature, which uses an awful lot of data to suggest areas where you're better or weaker against your peers. And from that perspective, rather than being maybe like an online coach or something like that, it's just a kind of tool where people can use to look for areas where they might want to improve, just to kind of generally get an idea, because chess is just a bit of a it's kind of like a bit of a game where it's sometimes difficult to know what path. It's like non-linear rather than having a kind of set storyline or something. So Lichess Tutor helps to just kind of point out where some of your weaknesses or strengths might be compared to other players around your level. Additionally to that, there were dozens, hundreds, maybe even thousands of kind of smaller updates. For example, introducing different colors for patron wings to reward people who have donated and help support us for the length of period of time that they've done it, rather than the size of the donation, just to thank them and have some appreciation there. We adjusted the rating system to also account for White's first move advantage. We added new puzzle themes. We've updated a whole load of API documentation, study search improvements, and yeah, like I said, thousands and thousands of things which are all tracked in the changelog overall. And this also included adding support for an OAuth client for take, and improvements there, which has been an important moment for us and for Jess generally. And I'm sure I've seen some questions already about that, and I'm sure we'll touch on that a bit later as well. But Thibault himself has some things to share here, and he has some thoughts. So we've got a video as well from Thibault sharing his thoughts, his updates from the development side, and an update from Thibault overall.
I'm Thibault Duplessis. I'm French, but it's not really my fault. Always enjoyed developing and coding stuff. Been making games on my Casio calculator since I could get my hands on one. Been working in a few startups, making all sorts of websites, and creating a lot of open source projects on the side, most of which were completely doomed to fail, and it was perfectly okay because I was just having a lot of fun. Although one project seemed to stick around and find an audience, which I really didn't plan for. It was a very small chess website that since has become the Lichess we all know and love. I'm now a full-time Lichess employee and act as the lead developer of the website. So my typical day would be like, I wake up a bit before 8 in the morning, start with cuddling the dog, then make a quick prayer to the flying spaghetti monster, then a coffee, and then I sit at the computer and I always start the day reviewing GitHub PRs, pull requests, which are made by other developers, oftentimes volunteers who just make it for the thrill of open source contribution. These are developers who are going to work on some part of the project, identify a bug that they want to solve or a new feature that they want to propose, and they're going to send their code to me for a review. I really like starting my day with that because I enjoy helping out these developers, and I think it has to be done in a very timely fashion so that they keep enjoying doing this. So I review the code, make some comments on it. I make amends to the code myself. And after some time, when we both agree that the code is good enough to be integrated into Lichess, then I merge it in and deploy it, and it becomes part of the website. When I'm done with reviewing the pull requests, I switch to the GitHub issues, which is where people come to report the new bugs that appear. I'm going to fix what I can. When I'm done with that, I'm usually going to inspect server logs and monitorings, taking the pulse of the mechanical machine that is Lichess. I look at a lot of charts, try to identify new threats or weaknesses or inefficiencies. I spend a lot of time optimizing for efficiency because we pride ourselves in using very few servers to make the system work and make it work very quickly, very smoothly. So yeah, I'm generally the mechanic that keeps the engine running. I like to see Lichess as a big train that's constantly going, can never stop, always more people hopping in. So we constantly have to add new wagons and improve the engine and inspect that huge engine for everything that could break in the possible future and fix it or replace it without ever stopping it. A lot has happened on the development side in the past year. We've released an excellent mobile app that we're very proud of. We improved support for visually impaired players so they can play, analyze their games, enjoy broadcasts and puzzles. Broadcast we improved quite a lot. I think we are now definitely the best platform where to watch over-the-board tournaments on. And we released Lichess Tutor, which is a way to analyze your games that you played on Lichess and get a lot of commentary and statistics about them. I like to precise that there is no AI involved in that. It's not generated bullshit. It's just pure statistical analysis. Just your games, stockfish, math, stats, and that's it. And of course, what I like to do the most is just continual improvements on every aspect of the site. Every day, the site gets better. I really enjoy these little improvements all the time about the parts that matter the most. In my opinion, it's more important to improve on what we have than increasing the scope of the website. So I thought, let it be an experiment. There's a lot of smart people in the chess community. Probably some of them will help me make a service they can use, a service that profits everybody and not just a few. So I set 3 rules from the beginning, rules that we will have to succeed with or fail with, but couldn't be changed along the way. The first and most important one for me was that everything we make goes immediately to the public, to the common good. That means open source. Every line of code we write, everyone has it. We are not creating value for ourselves. We are creating value for the entire chess community. So that means everything that Lichess is, all its source code, everyone can read it, everyone can copy it, everyone can reuse it to make new chess services. So every contribution to Lichess is a contribution to the entire chess ecosystem. And we are seeing today thousands of websites and services that use that Lichess code to get themselves bootstrapped. And also use our public datasets. Just like we publish the code, I wanted to publish the data as well. We publish all the games, the analysis, all our puzzles, so that people can just build new stuff and increase the diversity based on it. So that was the first rule, open source. The second one, there cannot be any ads, there cannot be any tracking or spyware in the software that we deliver. It's the same thing of people owning the service instead of being owned by it. When you own a program, that program cannot be working against you. Trackers, spyware, and ads that are on pretty much every other website and service nowadays, these work against us. They use our device, they use our bandwidth, they use our screen, they use our brain against us to serve other people's interest. There can be none of that in Lichess. I wanted Lichess to only be in service of the chess player and no one else. And the third rule, I said that everything has to be free. No one can pay money to get better feature or better service than someone else. I had no idea whether it would work. Just thought it was worth trying. And today I'm so proud to see that not only it works, but we've never deviated from these core values, and we never will. And it makes me so proud and so happy every day. And I'm so thankful to the chess community that it could power such a hopeful project. I'm very happy with the agreement we have with Take, and I've been pushing for it since the very beginning. The best part of my job, I think, is working with other developers that build other services than Lichess. And they build it naturally using what's available. And what's available is the Lichess source code, the Lichess APIs, and the Lichess public dataset. And I really love seeing people build their own thing based on that. So today we have many smallish services built on top of Lichess. So when I saw a major actor like Take who wanted to do the same, but with a lot more potential because they have a very talented team, they have funding, and they have ambition. So I thought this could bring a new major actor on the scene. This could bring something very interesting to the chess ecosystem, and I was very happy to be a part of it. And also, it is without risks for Lichess. We considered all the possible scenarios. None of them are bad for us. We want Take to succeed, and if they do, when they do, it's gonna be great for us. If they fail, they will fail on their own, and there will be no consequences for Lichess if they decide to continue without us at some point. It's completely fine. There is no possible scenario that has bad consequences for Lichess, so I'm very happy with that. It's real good. So when I'm not working on Lichess or playing online blitz or chess puzzles, I enjoy cooking, and I love spending time with my sweet dog Camille. And I love riding the bike with her and the special contraption that I built for her. I also do quite a lot of activism, mostly for animal rights. I know that animals can feel pain. I know they don't want to feel pain. I know they don't want to die. So since we wouldn't inflict pain on someone, we wouldn't kill someone, why do we do it to them? Why do we exploit these animals? Why do we kill them when we don't have to? When alternatives exist? Save lives. Go vegan.
So really great again to hear from Thibault speaking there on behalf of all of the developers and the development of Lichess overall, who keep improving, optimizing and adding new features to Lichess. It's because of Thibault that Lichess is what it is today. Like I said, it's his kind of vision, his philosophy, and yeah, I mean, he shared it so well and so nicely there, and yeah, it was just fantastic, to always see and hear the way that he views society and the world and everything. So that's the fourth update that we had from, in that case, development. We've got the final one left now, which is operations and administration. And this area is a pretty massive area because it basically covers everything that isn't moderation or content community development or sysadmin. So it's everything else that's kind of like strategy, governance, finance, legal, what you might call user support, for example, our kind of regular administration and operations overall. So the administrative part of that also has its own coordinator, Charlotte. Some people may know Charlotte as Cham, who's also infamous as the visionary behind Horsey. But unfortunately, again, because of short notice, like Armstark, Cham was unable to give a recap directly here. But she has a team of two with her who handle many of the daily administrative tasks, which, at the moment, it's answering the hundreds of emails that we get every single day, filing and paying the 50+ invoices that we now receive every month, because due to the community's generous support, we're now able to offer regular hours for our moderators, for people within our content team doing social media, etc., even our broadcasters and so on. And aside from that, all of the prizes that we're paying out as well across the titled arenas that we do, the streamer arenas, including the chess mood streamer arenas, etc., special events that we get. So it's quite a lot of work every month these days. So apart from that, she also helps to oversee our merchandise store as well. So it's a very multifaceted role that she has. So, like Armstark, she wasn't able to make it in time, unfortunately, to share her thoughts directly. But we have Thomas, one of the team members in that area, and Thomas will be able to share a bit of his thoughts and how he found the team and everything like that. So, a bit of a recap here from Thomas.
Hi, my name is Thomas. I'm from Germany, and I'm currently studying and training to become a psychotherapist. I'm also married with 2 little children, so between family time and studying full-time, there's very little time and capacity left for other things. But I try to get some work in for Lichess whenever I can. Like most of us, I was taught chess by my dad, and I've always enjoyed the game, but I only really became a chess enthusiast around 15 years ago when I stumbled upon chessgames.com. I started doing the daily puzzles on that site, checking out Grandmaster games. Then I also became a regular on chessbomb.com, hung out in the chats, followed broadcasts there until the site was sadly shut down. Rest in peace, chessbomb. I first played online chess on chess.com, but then I quickly discovered Lichess. I don't actually remember how, but I do remember instantly being hooked by the snappy feel of the site and the no-nonsense minimalistic design. And also from the start, I enjoyed the philosophy behind the site: free, open source, no ads, no trackers. This is something I've always loved about Lichess, and I think it has enabled Lichess to really be a chess server by the people, for the people, so to speak, by the chess players, for the chess players. I was first invited to become a moderator at the end of 2022, and I instantly accepted because as I said, I always loved the site. In that time, I had mostly worked for moderation, communications moderation mostly. So broadcast chats, forums, private messages, that kind of thing, just trying to catch users who break our terms of service by not following the communications guidelines. And yeah, it's a lot of work. It's work that never stops. Thankfully, we have a lot of helpful internal tools we use that automate part of the process and make it more manageable. And we also have a very dedicated team that does great work. But still, it can get you down because for, I don't know, every 100 kind and friendly users we have, there's that one bad apple that wants to spoil it for everyone. And as moderators, we are only exposed to that part of the user base and the worst of a user base, so to speak. And that can be frustrating, but it is important work to keep the site friendly and safe. But since the start of this year, I've switched roles a bit within the team. We have these stipends for team members that last 6 months where you get paid on a monthly basis. And I have been working on a administrative stipend, and me and 2 other team members answer emails. So we receive emails, Lichess does, and we try to answer them, which may sound like dry work at first, but it actually isn't. It's more like the box of chocolate where you never know what you're going to get. So we receive, I would say, between 100 and 200 emails per day. It can vary a lot. And the majority of those is account related issues, like people who lost access to their account and need help regaining it, or people whose accounts were banned and they want to appeal that decision. But then there's lots and lots of other things, issues that come up. There's feature suggestions and bug reports. There is people who want their title, their feeder title, to be verified on our side, or people who want to have a coach page, users who have questions about the class feature or the study feature, all these features Lichess has. Then there's users who want to collaborate with Lichess in some fashion, or users who have legal questions. So can I use the public puzzle database for my commercial project, for example? And even sometimes people who are asking for data that they can use for a research project, which is also really interesting. So there's all these different things that come up, some very niche issues. And I would say I can answer about half of them myself. But then for many emails, I have to look things up. I've spent these past months reading through a lot of internal documentation, going through old discussion threads, trying to find the right team member who knows about a certain issue or has the permissions to handle it. And I've even, for the first time ever, gone myself to GitHub and looked at the Lichess source code to figure certain things out, even though I have very little understanding of all that. So it's been fun. It's very interesting. I would say I've learned more about Lichess in the past months than in all the years before. And I'm looking forward to the rest of this stipend period. After that, I don't know what I will be doing next. Maybe continue this or go back to moderation or a bit of both. But I definitely know I will keep working for Lichess because I love the site. I love the project. We have a wonderful team that is great fun to be a part of. And I think we're really making a difference in the chess world.
So a big thank you again to Thomas and everyone else in the team who is helping to look after operations and administration overall. Like I touched on, part of that role is also things like strategy and governance, for example, which are often very much done by consensus as much as possible within the team. For example, I originally have a legal background, actually. So, for example, I often handle many of the legal things, and as my specialism was across data protection, financial regulation, and also consumer rights, those skills often come in quite useful in a kind of online setting. And likewise, because of that, in addition to the kind of content work that I've been doing recently, for example, with the interviewing, I'm also very active on the kind of finance and governance side of Lichess as well, and coordinating with all of the coordinators and the trustees. So that largely touches on all of the recaps of the different areas. We now go to the kind of second portion of this, which is generally more of a Q&A, and I already see a lot of viewers and people have been commenting with great questions. So do keep them coming. If there's any question that you would like to have answered, do my best to touch on every topic. As I said at the start of the stream, there'll be some topics which are not able to be discussed, for example, individual moderation cases, and anything about a specific account history, those kind of sorts of topics. But I saw an interesting one that was really early on, and it's quite a soft question, so I'll start with that one. I think it was from YouTube by someone called I Am the Phoenix 760, who asked, Theo, is there an interview you've done that is your favorite? And yeah, thank you for the question. Nice soft question to get started with. It's quite a hard question to answer, actually, because I like a lot of the interviews that I've done, because I think it's nice to give a real kind of sense of personality of the player, and I think that's what I really want to try and have come out when I do these interviews, is for people to try and to get to know the player a little bit. But actually, there'll be a very long interview that I did with the 15th world champion, 5-time world champion Viswanathan Anand, and I think to date that's probably my favorite interview that I've done so far. Just because I was really lucky to have an hour essentially with Anand. And we touched on a lot of topics, and he's just a player that I really admire and respect very much. So it was really, really fantastic to be able to have that opportunity. Yeah, I see someone has also just said the soft question is hard, and yeah, that is kind of true. I thought it was a soft question, but then I was immediately like, oh, actually, this is actually quite tricky. But yeah, I think Viswanathan Anand, which will be released later tonight, all being well. So make sure to check it out when it is released. Right, so that's that question. Let's have a look at another one. Right, so there was another one that was also on YouTube by somebody called DeRippleX. They asked, have you ever thought about bringing premium memberships to Lichess? All current features can be used for free, but as an example, what rank are we in our country, performance score, in the analysis, etc. So, this is a very non-negotiable value of Lichess, which is that, we believe in providing chess for free for everyone forever. So things like premium memberships, that's completely off the table. It's something that we have no intention to do, that we don't want to do, and that we haven't even thought about doing. It's a very core value of ours, and Thibault, who gave that great video as well, which we played earlier in the stream and which we'll also upload to YouTube after this. He also gave a great answer there with the kind of 3 core values that he set out to develop Lichess with when he began developing Lichess. So that's largely, I think, probably touching on that question. So, okay, that's those 2 questions. Let's have a look for another question which we had on Reddit. There was somebody with the name Effective Pin, which is very useful in a chess context, I guess, to have an effective pin. 151. They asked, what's next for Lichess? What's a big project you guys have been working on? Well, it's a good question. I think at the moment, we just had a big project that we've been working on, which was announced, which was, the Take project. And I think currently we're just kind of getting our breath back a bit from that and kind of seeing how that's going overall, the things that we might need to evaluate and, consider how much work, etc., that might be going into the future as well. There's quite a few things in terms of what's next for Lichess that I would like to share and give overall. I mean, I've got a lot of ideas, but it's whether it's whether people can see the vision. So I'm not certain on that if I can really share much in terms of what the next big project or big idea will be from Lichess, but I'm optimistic that next 6 months or so there might be something. As a slight hint, I guess, probably looking at areas where we've been kind of growing, expanding generally recently. That's probably a good place to think about as well. But yeah, definitely got some thoughts and plans there overall. Just yeah, we gotta take our breath back a little bit. Right. So that's touching a little bit on that one from Effective Pin. I'm often not so great on pins myself. Right. I saw a good one here from also on YouTube from Rakshit Singh. Lovely to hear from you, Rakshit. I believe that I actually know you if it's the Rakshit I'm thinking of, and given the question that you asked, I think probably you are. If it is exactly who I'm thinking of, Rakshit has done development before for Chessbase India, for example, and also has its own project, Chess Ranga. So yeah, worth following and checking them out. Very much developing and kind of contributing to Lichess as a whole. So sorry, to chess as a whole. But yeah. So, Rakshit has said that he understands that the BoardSeek API only supports rapid games or longer, but TTT has access to shorter time controls. These are because of anti-cheat rules, so Lichess has exclusive access. If any other company / project needs the BoardSeek API for shorter time controls, is there any way they can build trust to implement anti-cheat code on their client side? There is no clear documentation about this. So I think that's a really interesting question overall, and they're completely, correct to say that at the moment, Take, currently has access to shorter time controls. Oh, I see Rakshit has just said yes, it is me. Has just confirmed that. So in that case, hi to Rakshit, and yeah, again, make sure to follow and check out their work. But yeah. Completely correct that the BoardSeek API only supports rapid games or longer. Yeah, at the moment with Take, it's something which, as kind of Thibault said, he was very excited about, and it's quite interesting overall to see if Lichess could potentially become like some kind of play zone infrastructure, like a really important part, I think, of Lichess kind of being open source and providing these tools overall, is that it allows very quick innovation and new tools to develop very quickly. And we've seen that a lot in chess. Like, many websites that you think of probably use some Lichess code in them somewhere. So for example, Opening Tree, Blitz Tactics, Chessel, even ones which have shut down, for example, G-Chess, which was one of the companies under PMG, Play Magnus Group, which was acquired by chess.com. They actually used Lichess code. So for a very brief time, chess.com actually owned a company which was running Lichess code. They shut it down. Maybe that's why. Maya Chess, that's another one. Pi Chess, and even outside of chess, you have things like Li Drawfs and Li Shogi, for example. So other board games which are, very inspired by Lichess. So, the whole thing being kind of something that can be built on and allow kind of innovation and new tools to develop quickly, that's like really important to us. So allowing that infrastructure to be opened up and used by other softwares, tools, websites, I think that's like a really interesting thing to potentially consider and explore, because it would ultimately allow new entities within chess to more efficiently kind of enter the chess ecosystem, be able to innovate, create new tools, new features for the community, which, like, as a whole is fantastic for people who are into chess. All of these tools and kind of websites and features that I've mentioned, they help improve things for chess players and the chess community. But I think if that were kind of ever to happen, you know, we'd have to take it a little bit slow and learn some things from what we're doing with Take. That's why they're a great partner as well, because they have a very developed development team. You know, they've got a lot of resources behind them, etc. So it's very certain for us that they'll be able to tackle the kind of development hurdles that might arise. So, you know, I think it'll be interesting for us to kind of monitor how that goes, evaluate from it, and yeah, maybe after a bit of a trial period to see if it can be opened up a little bit more widely, and potentially, if so, how we'd do that. At this point, too early to say, to be honest, but you know, it's something that I think would be really cool to see, and very much kind of within the vision and ethos of Lichess, and you know, likewise, what Thibault was saying also in his interview. And I just see another one as well, also from YouTube, which kind of relates to this, by CCC Catch 64, who asked, will the Take play zone need Lichess to scale its servers, or do Take manage their own infrastructure? So I mean, you know, because actually, as was announced in the agreement, the play zone will be Lichess. All of that infrastructure is Lichess's infrastructure. So again, similar to the point before, essentially it would be Lichess, you know, who takes that infrastructure, has the servers, has the games, you know, the accounts are actually Lichess accounts, etc. Even if they're playing, for example, on Raksheet's website Chessranga, for example, or on Take. So yeah, very interesting question overall, and sorry if I kind of went all over the place a little bit with it, but I hope it helped to answer the question. And by the way, if it didn't, like, feel free to go for any follow-ups as well. I'll do my best to try and cover those as well. See a question. Let's have a look for another question. Oh, this is a nice one. A YouTube question from ACashH70, who asked, how can I make Lichess even better? Well, thank you. That's extremely sweet that you say, how can I make Lichess even better? That's lovely to hear. Yes, I mean, there's a couple of ways. I mean, really, you know, contributing is kind of the lifeblood of Lichess. Like, everyone who is currently on the Lichess team, you know, they began by contributing in some way. Very often, for example, that might be like broadcasts, helping our broadcast team, you know, find tournaments, make sure that those tournaments are online and being shown. That's been like a very classic way, and, you know, going through our Discord, that will allow you to kind of help begin contributing in that way. Another classic way is more recently with content, actually, where we recently did a call to action asking for people to help us with content. So, for example, having ideas for social media, you know, kind of having ideas as well for things like graphic design, video editing, etc. So there's a lot of different teams there. And if content is something which interests you, you can send a direct message on Lichess to Armstark, who you can often find under the contributors of any broadcast that's currently happening on Lichess to find their accounts. I'm sure also someone from lichess.org will share their profile as well. So that'd be a great way to help us, you know, for example, with social media and written content with the broadcast team. And you can actually still fill out a form as well, which I see someone has just added a link actually to the contribute page. You can fill out the form if you want to help with social media and written content, which is very appreciated. And apart from that, there are several other ways in content as well. You know, things like the video library that we update and maintain, opening pages, studies, translations is a really big one. There have been lots of people who have got into Lichess through translation. I actually dabbled with translation for a while when I was studying Russian. and that's actually how I was found, now I think about it. I think I was actually found because I was experimenting with translating Lichess into Russian. Anyway, so yeah, translation is a very great one as well. If you're technically inclined, you can donate a server or some CPU for chess analysis. We have a piece of software called Fishnet, which does that. And there's like a helpful guide on how to set that up. And again, if you join the tech Discord, you know, anyone will be willing to help you with that. Oh, I see that Toadovsky has been learning Latin and translating. That's going to be very useful for the Pope and anyone else who's playing from Vatican City. And yeah, in terms of contributing, even just advocating about Lichess as well, talking about Lichess, that's also a fantastic way to kind of raise our visibility, raise our profile. And historically, you know, it's been where most people have kind of found out about us has been through people in the community talking about us and sharing us. And that, you know, goes for things like streams as well and, you know, YouTube, etc. I mean, I saw earlier in the chat, Tamara was here. And for example, she recently did a very interesting video about the take and the situation there. So yeah, all of these are fantastic ways to contribute. And of course, finally, a donation. That's always also a way to contribute. And, you know, if you don't have the time or don't have the experience or expertise potentially to feel like you can contribute in the other ways, you know, a regular donation also really helps us out a significant amount. So thank you to all of our contributors and our patrons, our donors. Really appreciate it. Right, so let's have a look. Okay, so I see someone from YouTube again has said, Chess Fiction Chess. They said, are you worried that this value of free forever will dissuade people from donating? Really, really interesting question. Not one that I've, you know, kind of particularly thought of before. I mean, yeah, I think, you know, what's important is that Lichess has existed at this point for around 16 years, just under 16 years. And, you know, it's been donation based since 2016. And sorry, I'm just getting some water, not sure where I put it. And funny kind of thing aside there, you know, we had to kind of, I remember we had to kind of convince Thibault at the time to be like, you know, you can't take all server costs on yourself. Like, there are lots of people willing to kind of donate a cup of coffee. So, you know, let's kind of try to make it donor based. So it's been donor based for over a decade. And, you know, we've been very fortunate that that's never been impacted. We've always had a surplus, or we've had enough money in our accounts that even if we do have a deficit, it's manageable. In fact, the last few years, we've actually planned for there to be a spending deficit. That means, you know, that we thought we would spend more money than we would receive. And, you know, all being well, the last few years, that's been, you know, completely fine. We've actually, you know, always not just survived, but even thrived on the donation model that we have. So wouldn't be possible without the community, without the people who do donate and contribute. So again, a big thank you to all of the donors and contributors. And yeah, you know, what Lichess is now, all of the things that we do, even this stream, for example, wouldn't be possible because of that. So yeah, thank you very much for that. Right, let's have a look at some feature requests. Here's one. One from Twitch, because we haven't actually touched Twitch yet, from Chess Optics. They said, I just want to say thank you for being so great. Will Lichess ever have a feature like spaced repetition in studies that allow you to drill your repertoire? Great question. Just going to chuck down some water. Thank you, first of all, for saying that you want to say thank you for Lichess being so great. It means a lot in particular. You know, spaced repetition is definitely something that's been thought about for some time, and it's been raised a couple of times within the team. We're always very interested in improving all of our features, but especially studies, because, you know, I think studies is one of the things that really sets us apart. there's not really another web-based platform out there which has a feature like studies. So, we're very interested in doing what we can to make studies as useful to the chess community as possible. And, we also know that even top players enjoy studies, right? Recently in the candidate, Sindarov, it turned out, had accidentally set his Lichess studies to public. And okay, he thankfully didn't leak prep, but he was leaking testing himself in some lines. So yeah, so even top players enjoy studies. So yeah, we're very proud of studies. Think it's a great feature. Always looking to improve it. I think personally, I would quite like to see spaced repetition, but you've always got to be mindful that we're a quite small team, especially when it comes to the kind of developers and the development side of things that we have. And every new feature that you do add ultimately adds a maintenance burden. And yeah, just got to ultimately be very mindful that even if it is very useful for like maybe some hardcore users or some hardcore players of chess, it might not ultimately have enough widespread appeal to make it worth the maintenance burden. But there are, I think, other kind of softwares out there that use Lichess code. I believe that oh, my mind's gone completely blank. That's embarrassing. Let me have a think. What was it called? LeStudy, right, LeStudy. I'm pretty sure that LeStudy has a spaced repetition feature, for example, and it uses the Lichess code in terms of studies. So yeah, I guess if you're missing it, if I remember correctly, and LeStudy does have it, that's always a backup option. Right. So let's have a look for another one. Interesting question here on YouTube again by Imkirna, where they asked, will Lichess get servers outside of France? Yeah, I mean, very interesting question. I mean, for a variety of reasons, I think having servers in France, or at the very least Europe, is quite important, for example, for things like data protection and, data sovereignty. A lot of our users are from Europe, and we actually give GDPR rights essentially to everyone in the world, regardless of where they're from, because it's simply, easier to give the same data regime rights to every single user than it is to actually care about, oh, okay, this user's from Malaysia and, they don't care about, this aspect of data protection there. And so we just give everyone the same high level of data protection rights. And in many places, we actually go beyond what GDPR requests and requires. Because, ultimately it's quite a philosophical point that the software, you should have control of the software. It shouldn't have like control of you. You should have control of your data. It's kind of maybe worrying to see some of the ways that like data is being used. And of course, I have a background here in data protection. So yeah, some of the things that we're seeing with like, I don't want to name drop any companies, but okay, Palantir is a very big one, for example. And some of the stuff that we're seeing there and how data is being used is pretty worrying. So anyway, I think generally, yeah, keeping servers, at least within Europe, is the plan for the time being. It could be maybe possible in the future, because there are some people with lag difficulties as data regimes around the world catch up and become, closer and closer to GDPR or things even better than that, that we might investigate if that's a possibility to do. But at the moment, our servers are based in France with backups in Germany. In terms of lag issues, if you are experiencing that, the best thing to do is to go to lichess.org/lag, and that'll show how you're impacted. I've traveled all over the world for my work with Lichess, and it's been a handful of times where I can actually feel the lag, and that the lag compensation isn't really helping or working properly. So if it's more the kind of lag aspect that you're feeling, I think then yeah, lichess.org/lag is probably one of the best things to consider. Let's have a think. Was there anywhere in particular where I experienced terrible lag? Oh, actually, that's true. When I was in Thailand, actually, I was in Bangkok over the New Year, and I think I dropped about 200 rating points or something in Bullet in Thailand, and I put that purely down to lag. I think maybe, you know, I think that's got to be investigated, but there's no other way I could have lost 200 rating points. But I've got to say, otherwise, when I've been, for example, in Kazakhstan, I actually feel that my rating increases there when I've been in Kazakhstan. I've hit my all-time highs in terms of bullet ratings in Kazakhstan. So, you know, you would think it's when I've been in France or Europe that would be the case. But yeah, the lag and lag compensation works in mysterious ways, perhaps. Right, let's have a look at another question. Another one from YouTube. Druis Mathieu has said, will Lichess ever consider hosting OTB events? Yeah, really interesting question. I mean, you know, as I said earlier, I think a really big role of online chess should be to help grow and encourage, you know, the promotion and visibility of chess overall, which also includes OTB. And that's maybe something we're not seeing so clearly from like every single actor in the chess space at the moment. I think in theory, it would be quite interesting to do our own OTB events. I mean, at the moment, we don't have, you know, the kind of budget or resources for it or anything. But I mean, I suppose if I think about it more, we have technically done OTB events in the past. So, for example, at our meetups, which we do once a year, for example, we very often have OTB tournaments there. In Canada last year, we had a Blitz OTB tournament, and in Berlin the year before that, we also had a Blitz OTB tournament. But in terms of doing, you know, something on a larger scale, yeah, it'd be really cool, but we just don't have the kind of resources at the moment. And if we did do it, we'd really want to do it in a way that supports, you know, chess players, chess community, OTB chess as a whole. So yeah, great question. Very interesting. And I see that I've also made someone pretty excited about Kazakhstan being mentioned as well. So glad that that they found that interesting. I see another comment from Himank Ghosh, if that's the Himank that I think it is. A hello to Himank as well. Right, let's have a look for another question then. Fantastic to see all of these questions and everything coming in. Make sure to keep them coming. Yeah. Lots and lots of questions overall. Right, so let's have a look for another question. One on Reddit from Electronic Seat 4336. They said, can we have some Lichess titles like LCM, LFM, LIM, LGM? It would be great as players. We'll get more motivation to grind for something. Yeah, I mean, actually, Lichess, we used to do titles in the past, right? Like, you might see some people who have LM, the title LM, which we did as a joke to mean kind of Lichess master. And, okay, no, saying it was a joke is unfair. We did it because lots of players, for example, particularly in variance, didn't actually have a title despite being very strong. So we kind of did it as a way to recognize the achievements of players, particularly in variance, who weren't titled but were kind of worthy of that title. And we also gave it to very strong players generally, who were also very good role models within chess. So those were kind of the two main reasons why LM was given out. We haven't been doing that recently so much, mainly because it's kind of maybe been diluting, the role of titles as a whole to some extent, and it became quite difficult as well, I think, to judge like how to give it out. I see some people asking who the last LM title was or when it was. I really can't remember. I think it was probably, I mean, it was well before the pandemic, I'm certain. Yeah, I mean, my guess would probably be around 2018 or something like that, but it's possible that somebody might know more within the team, more particularly. But yeah, LCM, LFM, LIM, LGM, it reminds me a little bit of like the arena titles, like the FIDE Arena, ACM, AFM, etc. I don't think that's probably something that we would go for. I recognize, that it can give players more motivation to achieve something, hopefully not grind for something, but yeah, more motivation to try and attain a goal or something like that. But there's maybe an argument to be made that it dilutes OTB titles or creates some confusion. So yeah, that's probably one that will be put on the back burner for now, I imagine. Right, let's go for a couple of more hardball questions again. We've got a question here from Wesley Hopmans, who asked, what is Lichess actively doing against cheaters and engine users? Which was also from YouTube. Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, as touched on a little bit earlier, we have a large moderation team overseen by a moderation coordinator, Arnab. And in total, we probably have around 100 moderators, probably around, half of that or so are active every day, doing some investigations into people who commit fair play violations, use engines, that sort of thing. And there are kind of two approaches which are taken. One approach is that there are a large number of automated tools which we use, and a lot of kind of metrics there which are considered. A lot of those, are maybe known at this point, but not going to share them. But yeah, so the automated tools kind of look at a variety of metrics and factors, and based on that, they'll generate reports or in some cases be able to take action themselves. And when they do make a report, or when a user is also reported by another player, then that will also trigger an action for either the automated tools to kind of look into it a little bit more carefully, or for a human to look into it. And, the humans are often, chess players themselves. Many of them have backgrounds in things like computer science or statistics. So, they've got kind of often colleagues, at least, with kind of knowledge and specialism there if there's ever something that's a bit borderline or a bit uncertain. And every moderator is trained as well by an experienced moderator. So, obviously giving a good experience online is very important and very critical. And if you think you have encountered one, the best thing to do is to just report them rather than in particular, accusing them or anything like that. And, a moderator will look at it and take an action or not. But if they do take an action, it might not always be visible. So yeah, I think, the fact that there are nearly 3 million moderation actions roughly a year indicates that, we're very active against all kind of fair play violations. So hopefully that covers that one a little bit overall. Again, if you want to ask any follow-ups, feel free to do so. Just having a look. Oh, I see Wesley was happy with that. Thank you, Wesley. Let's have a look for another question then in that case. Right, let's have a look then for some other questions. Thank you, Randy Given, for saying you loved the candidates coverage. Yes, it's been very lovely, the positive enthusiasm and encouragement that's come from that. And, you know, also I've got to say a massive thank you to the team that was behind it as well, because, you know, just doing an interview or something like that, for example, you know, it's not just myself, it's 3 or 4 people behind that. So, you know, a big thank you in particular, you know, to Armstark as the content coordinator, who was helping get that out, as well as the fantastic editors, researchers, and just generally all of the people behind the scenes who made it possible. It wouldn't be possible or as good, you know, without their help overall. Okay, let's have a look for another question. So just having a look a little bit more. Let's have a look. Okay, yep, I see one from Reddit by username ImportantGarage807. And they asked that Lichess blogs that are featured on the main page have previously been sometimes inappropriate or low effort. Have steps been taken to curate front page content better? Also, some front page articles appear to have ads and AI photos / text, seemingly antithetical to Lichess's de-enshittification. Am I allowed to say that? Oh, damn. Am I allowed to swear? Anyway, well-featured articles aren't paid ad spots. They sometimes come across that way. Does Lichess have a stance on these kind of articles? Yeah, really good question. And I mean, yeah, it's very difficult, I think, actually, to strike the right balance in terms of content between encouraging and allowing people to kind of write and share what they want with the world, as well as what our own kind of editorial stance might be on the things that we want to promote and highlight. So obviously there are some kind of red lines, and there have been lots of discussions internally which have, you know, been considered very strongly about things like AI photos, and even things like not just AI text, but even receiving AI help to create an article. So there have been very long discussions internally about that. A lot of it has been considered. I think Mark Fishy Vishy might have touched on it himself. But at the moment, you know, he is part of the team, or leading the team that curates the front page content overall. And there are some automated tools which were developed by developers to help us separate things that were likely created by things like AI tools versus things which were more likely to be human written. It's kind of ironic in a way, because, you know, you have people who are using AI and wasting liters of water on, you know, making these prompts for the articles, etc. And then on the other side, you have now a tool which Lichess develops and uses, which uses AI and probably wastes liters of water to detect, you know, what that is. So it's kind of just like robots, you know, detecting robots a little bit. So yeah, that's been implemented. And yeah, sometimes, as you've said as well, you know, featured articles can come across maybe as like paid ad spots, or they can kind of come across that way sometimes. You know, it's quite important, I think, that Lichess itself, whilst it maybe doesn't wish to take a kind of commercial stance or perspective about, you know, the stuff that we provide to the community and create, we really recognize that for a lot of people's living, they need to be able to advertise themselves and be able to promote themselves to the community. So, you know, for example, we allow people who are streamers and perhaps make a living that way to promote themselves, and we even give them visibility, you know, on the homepage sometimes. And coaches, for example, you know, we have a coaches section where people who are looking for students, set their kind of price and negotiate directly with the student there. So we've never been against the idea of, people trying to make a living from chess and us trying to support them as much as possible. I mean, in fact, I think even by virtue of Lichess being open source as well, and people being able to use the code for their own projects, that's also been a significant part of allowing a lot of viable businesses or projects to be set up. So again, it's a very fine line that we need to tread, where we do allow people to write articles which are generally high quality and good content, but maybe they are promoting themselves as a coach or a book they've written or something along those lines. And of course, the other material, which is maybe a bit lower in quality, or maybe doesn't have something the community can learn from, and is basically just a pure advertisement or kind of something like that. So yeah, it's definitely a tricky line to tread, and I can recognize that perhaps not everyone will always feel that we've gone on the right side of that line. But we feel quite strongly that it's important to make sure that that Lichess allows other people, entities trying to make a living from chess to be able to do that ultimately. So hopefully that answers that question from Reddit. Very interesting question here on YouTube from Thomas Anderson 3428, who highlighted that the French Chess Federation, the Fédération Française d'Échecs, they picked a mortal game, which was crypto/NFT in 2023, without even calling you. What would it take to come back? And why no proactive Lichess Federation edition pitched to India, Norway, Germany, ? I think this was also actually similar to a comment which was also asked on Reddit. It's an aspect of it, which was there as well. So I guess it's kind of two birds with one stone to some extent. Yeah, really interesting question. I mean, exactly as kind of said, Immortal Chess was a platform that was a chess platform kind of based around purchasing skins and NFT pieces and that sort of thing back in, around the pandemic. I think it took off when NFTs were popular. Since then, it has shut down. But between that time, between the pandemic and from it shutting down, it had a kind of online contract or something with the French Federation, where they had a French national online tournament there, I think a Blitz tournament. And there were various other things. I mean, whoever asked this question knows their stuff, because this happened so long ago, I can barely remember it. And, and it's my job to be in chess. So I'm pretty impressed by this question. Actually, it's a very deep strategic one. But yeah, I mean, I think an important part of that is that Immortal Game, if I remember correctly, paid something like 50,000 euros to the French Federation. And, I'm certain that factored very strongly into the French Federation's decision, that they made this kind of sizable contribution to the Federation's funds. It's always nice to work with national federations, and particularly with the French one. I mean, okay, I was born in the UK, I'm British overall, but, Lichess is French. It's a French charity. The founder, Thibault Duplessis, is French. Our president, Luca Bonnet, is French. Our full-time mobile developer, Vincent, is also French. So even if I am kind of speaking, for Lichess or whatever quite often, or representing Lichess in some way, at its core, Lichess is French, and still considers itself French, holds French values very strongly. So yeah, I think if the French Federation were to reach out and wanted to, to cooperate or to collaborate with us, I think that would always have a little bit of a special place inside for the team. Yeah, always open for that phone call. Not sure why they haven't done it, but it's always a possibility. And the second part of that question, it kind of asked, why no proactive Lichess Federation edition? Again, very interesting question. We have kind of done this to some extent. I mean, we have a very, you know, a lot of cooperation with federations in general. So, for example, you know, the Kazakhstan Chess Federation, we've worked with them quite closely several times. We even hosted their online national tournaments, you know, last year. And I believe that there's going to be more cooperation, more online tournaments, including their national events potentially this year coming as well. Arab Chess Federation, so that's not just a country, that's, you know, that's an entire region. That's the chess federation that represents every single Arabic-speaking country, roughly, what, 300-400 million people. We have a memorandum of understanding with them. And again, you know, we've hosted many of their online events, and, you know, it's a collaboration which we've enjoyed and which we want to see continue and to go further. The English Chess Federation, for example, they use Lichess to play online tournaments. They also have the online 4NCL as well, though I'm not sure if it's still running after the pandemic. The German Chess Federation actually has also done online tournaments on Lichess. So, you know, many of these federations do use Lichess, or we have some kind of discussions with them, but it is maybe a little bit strange in some ways that we're closer to, for example, the Kazakhstan Chess Federation and the Arab Chess Federation than we are to the French Federation. But yeah, always willing to work with any federation. And the French one definitely would have a, you know, have a special place for us. Right, so let's have a look for another question. Oh, Himank Ghosh again, if this is, I didn't actually see the reply of Himank, if this is the Himank that I think it is. But if it is Himank, good to see you again, Himank. He's asked, are there any plans to regularly broadcast the Lichess titled arenas? I know so many top players play there, and I am sure strong players would love to commentate. Yeah, I mean, you know, it would always be fantastic to regularly stream the Lichess titled arenas. And I mean, in the past, we did actually do that a little bit more, like especially through the pandemic. And yeah, you're completely right that we have, you know, top players who play in our titled arenas. I mean, for example, just yesterday, the top 10 in our Blitz titled arena included Matthias Bluebaum, you know, someone who played in the candidates, which is fantastic. And, you know, it was very, very nice of him to ensure that the other players got a chance in the candidates rather than just immediately going for the great Bluebaum sweep. But yeah, it was fantastic as always to see Matthias. You know, the two prodigies as well, the American prodigy, Andy Woodward, who's also one of the strongest bullet players on the Lichess platform. You know, he also took part in the Blitz titled arena, came in the top 10. And the very famous, you know, Faustino Oro also took part. So yeah, you know, we get very strong players in the titled arenas, and the support that they give by playing in those arenas is fantastic to see. But yes, I mean, generally we've been doing live streams less overall. You know, it's not always been the most, you know, there's this concept of a fiduciary duty for a charity, and you've always got to make sure that every expenditure that you do is like the best possible use of that money, kind of within reason. So live streaming historically, you know, hasn't always been that. And, you know, we've been focusing much more on videos lately. And I mean, it wasn't just us that actually have stopped doing live streams, for example. I mean, you know, chess.com also have gone years before Take began broadcasting their title Tuesdays. So maybe it's possible something might manifest there, but I don't know for sure. And, you know, it's never completely certain what might happen. And, you know, I think ultimately, even if we don't stream it ourselves, you know, there are several players, people from the community, people taking part who stream their own titled arena as well. So, that's always fantastic to see, and maybe to some extent that also helps fill in that kind of gap of, even if you are missing a Lichess stream, that there are still other streams of our titled arenas out there. So, for example, just yesterday, Frederick Svane, he streamed yesterday. I think he was playing it yesterday as well. But yeah, he also streamed it. So, very fortunate to have that sort of support and, these sorts of streamers taking part and being able to show. Not all of them can, of course. Famously, quite a few of them are under exclusivity contracts, so it's quite difficult for some top players who want to take part in the titled arenas to even be able to do so. But it's fantastic when there are players who are able to do that and help give visibility to our tournaments, and again to themselves as well. So I hope that kind of largely answers that question overall. I see Flaneur in Internet has said that Lichess has done something like that before with promoting chess with the help of Lichess among underprivileged children. Thibault probably came to Mumbai. Thibault probably has been to Mumbai in the past. It wouldn't surprise me at all. He used to travel quite a lot. But that's actually an initiative you might be thinking of, which Chess-Based India does. The great Sagar Shah, who many of us know and appreciate, and I probably wouldn't be here doing this right now if Sagar hadn't encouraged me, for example. Sagar runs an initiative in Mumbai where he works with children, without parents who are waiting for adoption, in foster homes and that sort of thing. And he teaches them chess, and someone very generously from their community donated some PCs, some computers, so that these children can actually play chess online, and they play on the Lichess puzzles, and they play online on Lichess, and it's very sweet to see. I was very lucky to be able to go there, actually. I think it was after. It wasn't after the GCL, but it was after a tournament that I'd been to in India, if I remember correctly. And I went to Mumbai, and I saw the work that Sagar is doing, and it was very moving overall. And I think it's a side of the work that he does and that Chess-Based India does that doesn't really get much attention, and that he doesn't really promote himself. But it has such an impact on those children. It was genuinely very moving. And it's one of the strongest memories that I kind of have at the moment for like just how much chess can mean to people, because these kids didn't have very much at all, and I've been very lucky to have a lot in my life, but seeing the difference that just like a chess set made to those kids, and how much enjoyment they got from it, it really made me realize like just how much impact chess can have around the world, and how even something very small can have a really big impact to someone. So great work that Sagar is doing out there, and Chess-Based India is doing out there. Right, let's have a look for another question. Sorry, that wasn't really a question. That was more just kind of a tangent where I kind of got nostalgic about some great work that Chess-Based India and Sagar is doing. Okay, there's a question here from our Lichess forum, actually from Todovsky, where he said, might there be future plans to improve integration between lichess.org/video and lichess.org/streamer to make it easier for streamers to feature or share their other content? Yeah, I mean, I think this is a great suggestion. I don't think there's anything particularly concrete here, so there might be future plans for it. There's certainly not future plans for it. But yeah, I hadn't actually really thought about it as far as I know. But yeah, kind of makes sense to me. So yeah, great suggestion, and it's one that we'll have to consider overall. Right. let's look for another question. Igloo Kid asked, Theo, don't know if you will touch on this, but will Take's financial contributions reflect in the cost spreadsheet? So let's take a bit of a harder question then in that case. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, it was announced that you know, Take as part of having this additional API access, you know, will contribute to Lichess as part of that. So that will have a financial element to it. You know, Lichess always wants to be as transparent as possible. For example, lichess.org/costs. All of our current costs are public. We show those, and we also have audits as well, which are done independently, and we have a link to those in the lichess.org/costs as well, so it can be double checked, you know, the amount of donations that we receive, what we spend them on, how much money, you know, we have left over when there are years where we have money left over. So we've always tried to be, you know, as transparent as possible with our costs, and you know, we've made that clear to Take, and I'm confident that whilst the full financial side, you know, might not be fully public because there might be some sensitive business information in there, for example, you know, I think as that will be still visible, I think, in the cost spreadsheet, even if it isn't the exact like basis of costs, etc. But I think it will still be possible to see those contributions reflected in the cost spreadsheet. So yeah, that should touch on that, at least very much in the audits. It definitely will be. Let's go for another question. User interface update, again on Reddit, by Kolder Zipka. Hopefully that's not a rude word in some language or something, in a foreign language or something. They said, I love Lichess, but I find that the user interface could do with a big update. Is this something that's coming in the future? Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting question, and it's definitely something that we get quite often, right? Like, you often see online people kind of saying that, you know, they really like Lichess, but the homepage, for example, is quite intimidating, especially for new players. And I mean, first of all, that's really useful feedback to hear. Like, it's always very great to see these kind of comments and things out in the wild, because it just helps you understand like what the kind of general impression of the community and so on actually is relating to these things. So yeah, I like seeing comments like that, even when they, or maybe even especially when they are critical of Lichess, because it helps to understand what to improve. And yeah, I mean, I think, you know, my instinct overall is like, I would completely agree that, you know, the user interface is quite intimidating and quite scary, particularly for new users. I remember someone looking at it and being like, I don't know what any of these numbers mean. Like, why is there just a grid of like 1 + 0? Like 1 + 0 is 1. So, you know, I remember that there were, yeah, people who were just, you know, very unfamiliar with it, completely understandably. So yeah, I think it would make sense to try and consider a way that we can make it slightly less intimidating or like slightly less threatening to kind of members, new members of the community, or maybe some way we can kind of do a little bit more like hand holding and be like a little bit more gentle at the moment than just being like, here's a page of everything. You know, you kind of need to know how it works. So yeah, I think it's a great suggestion. It's definitely one we've taken on board. At the same time, it's also very challenging because, you know, for something like this, you need to have like a consistent user interface and user experience throughout the entire website. And if you're kind of, you know, relying on a designer potentially voluntarily or as a contribution, you know, it's a very big commitment to make overall. So, you know, it kind of goes two ways. It kind of goes two ways. It's very difficult to do that sort of update with the kind of team and the resources that we have overall. But I also fully understand people who feel that the interface could do with just a bit more of an update. And I see Chess Optics in the chat saying that he's never felt intimidated by the user interface and, you know, thinks it's a minimalist nature of it. I think, you know, it'd definitely be great to still keep it minimalist, but new beginners, new players in particular who come to the website and just see a grid of like 1+0, 3+0, 2+1, etc. I think they don't know what it means, and that kind of can be quite, intimidating for them overall. And we could kind of make that experience, I think, a little bit kinder. So, yeah, I see where they're coming from both sides. Right, let's do a few more questions as we are running over 2 hours. If you've got any pressing, urgent questions, make sure to ask them as soon as possible. Very happy to try and take as many tricky ones as possible. Bear with me a sec. Let's look for a couple of questions. There must be a few topics here. Yep. Okay, so let's go for one from the forum, the Lichess forum, who said the username was the Magnus Aura. They said, why are Lichess off-topic forums managed poorly by the mods? Question mark, brackets, if this gets ignored, it's likely something. So, I want to make sure that we don't ignore it because, again, Lichess generally tries to be as transparent as possible. And, I think it's important that we face up to the things we don't do so well as the things that we do well. Let me just get some water. I mean, I think it's fair to say that generally, Lichess has said before that, we're not very happy with the current state of the off-topic sub-forum. And, when you have a lot of volunteer moderators, who are more focused on, for example, things which are like actually abusive within chat or harmful within chat or fair play violations, the off-topic forum can sometimes be viewed as just like a little bit of a frivolity, something that isn't, particularly at the high end of the things to be concerned about. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say that we've considered various options to how to improve the off-topic sub-forum. But for the meantime, generally all I can say is if you do frequent the sub-forum, just report the posts that violate the terms of service to the moderators. And again, as I touched on actually earlier in the video, like if you do consistent good reports, if you seem to be a kind of good person yourself and you're, helpful and positive to kind of people who aren't so familiar with Lichess, etc. If you're ever interested in contributing, those are like some of the factors that we actually also look out for when we proactively approach people to kind of become moderators. So yeah, hopefully that touches on the off-topic forum question, and apologies to the Magnus Aura who asked that on the forums, and we've only just got round to it now, but hopefully they're still watching. Or we'll watch the VOD, that's also possible. Right, let's take a few more questions. So someone on YouTube called Horrorgoof, always a solid fan of horror films in general. They've asked, is there a plan to add puzzle battle as it is my best way to puzzle? So as I understand it, puzzle battle is actually a reference to a head-to-head puzzle solving feature on chess.com. I don't believe that we actually have any immediate plans to implement something like puzzle battle on Lichess, but we do have Puzzle Racer, which is like everything on Lichess, free, no adverts, anyone can do it. And it's very similar to Puzzle Battle. You can compete against your friends, or you can join a public race, which is against random players. You earn points for correct moves, and the puzzles get increasingly difficult with a 90-second countdown. And we were actually inspired by Type Racer for it. So yeah, no specific plans to implement something like Puzzle Battle, but yes, we have Puzzle Racer. You don't even need an account to play it. And Faustino Oro plays it quite often, actually. He seems to find it a good way to warm up before tournaments. So, you know, if it's good enough for Faustino Oro, I'm sure it's good enough for the rest of us mere mortals. And if anything, it's a faster version of Puzzle Battle with more players rather than just doing 1 versus 1. I think it's 8 players in total. So hopefully that answers the question that that Horror Goof has asked regarding Puzzle Battle. Let's have a look for just a couple of other questions. I want to try and make sure that, you know, everyone who asked questions, particularly the tricky questions, are getting answered. So on Twitch, E3 gewinnt, which I believe is probably German for E3 is winning, or something along those lines. My German isn't very good. They asked about a minus 150 puzzle difficulty. If I understand that correctly, it means that they want a new difficulty setting of minus 150 rather than minus 300 and minus 600. So I don't believe that we have this level of granularity, but it's something that we will look into. I think this is one that I can't answer on the stream, but it's something that we'll look into and we'll try to get an answer out somehow. Maybe in the next one. Maybe by the next time we do this, we'll have an answer that we're able to share. And I've also been reliably told by a native German speaker that E3 gewinnt means that E3 wins. So, oh, it's kind of close. Right. Let's have a let's have a look for some other questions. On YouTube, somebody called ACashH70. I think we had a question from them earlier as well. So good questions from this individual. They said, can we have Lichess 0 for game analysis running locally through the website and game review? So I believe there is actually a tool that we have, lichess.org/external engine. And there's also a new tool that seems to be working on that might be something similar to that. I believe the external engine is actually working, so it's possible, as I understand it, that you can analyze games with any engine on Lichess. You just have to connect it to your engine program. So if you have Lichess 0 downloaded, you can connect it to your Lichess games, and it'll give you the engine analysis of any engine that you like. So yeah, maybe worth checking out the external engine. It's on GitHub. Lichess.org external engine, and see if that works. And if not, perhaps we can have a follow-up in the next time we do this. Right. Let's go for someone on Reddit who asked quite a few tricky questions. I don't know if I'll be able to go through all of them, but I'll try to do my best. So someone on Reddit called Requin Blanc, they said, chess.com has played roughly 12 billion games last year, Lichess played about 1 billion, and your volume has been roughly flat since 2021, while theirs tripled. Have you ever seriously modeled a separate for-profit commercial entity owned 100% by the non-profit that would sell business-to-business services such as federation white label, school licenses, certified coaching marketplace, paid API tiers, and channel all profits back into the free platform? If you have, what killed the idea? If not, why not? Yeah, no, we've never thought about that. And I think also, there's this comparison as well about like game volume. And ultimately, I don't think game volume is the most important metric for us. So, if I remember correctly, and these are just figures that I'm trying to remember in the recesses of my brain, so they might not be completely accurate. I think chess.com had quite up-down sort of game volume. Like I think, you know, in the pandemic, I think it went up to like 4.6, and then I think it went down to like 3.5 billion. And then with the release of bots and stuff, it's generally climbed. And as the poster has said, you know, it's been about, well, I don't remember it being 12 billion, but it's possible it could have been. But either way, it's generally been a little bit up and down. Whereas Lichess with the pandemic was very stable. You know, we kind of went from like, I don't know, goodness, I need to try and remember. Luckily, we have the Lichess game database, so it's possible to check my numbers. But I think before the pandemic, you know, we were hitting maybe around 60 million or so games per month before the pandemic, maybe even less than that. Yeah, right. So I think probably half of that. I think around 30 million games per month before the pandemic. And then when the pandemic hit, you know, we ended up getting into highs of around 110 million, I think, at the very peak of the pandemic. It was definitely just over 100 million in a month. And we've generally pretty much maintained that ever since. So yeah, I mean, game volume isn't really the most important metric for us. But, you know, if you look at the numbers that we had in like 2018, for example, when we had 30 million games in a month, and now the numbers now, I think last month was around 90 million. There's a clear and steady level of growth which has maintained. And I think that's the most important thing. It's not, you know, that there's a massive spike that maybe goes up higher and maybe goes down. You know, ultimately, I think that level of fascination with game volume is unsustainable, not the right metric. It should be about the impact that you're having on chess as a whole, the kind of long-term gains which are kind of coming from the grassroots of chess. You know, are there more chess players playing? What's the impact on OTB? You know, all of these sorts of factors. I don't think it should just be kind of like the raw number of games. So yeah, interesting question. Never considered it. I think it's like several reasons for that, which, you know, should probably get into in writing rather than discussion, because yeah, there's a lot of reasons, but it's just impractical. It's not within our philosophy. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons. It would be, yeah. Interesting idea though. Like, you know, if this guy were like some like business consultant or something, I mean, yeah, very interesting idea. But yeah, on the whole, just I don't think something that we're interested in as a whole. Second question, they also asked that Carlsen chose Lichess organically. Then his Magnus Carlsen chess tour went to chess.com. Freestyle chess signed exclusively with chess.com. In January 2026, FIDE made chess.com the host of the Freestyle World Championship play-in. The new $2.7 million FIDE Total Chess Tour is also not on Lichess. Where, concretely, did Lichess lose this entire elite institutional layer? And what is your honest read on whether it is recoverable in the next 24 months? Yeah, I mean, again, very interesting question. Very deep insights into chess, and obviously keeping up with a lot of chess news and like kind of chess industry, so to speak. So yeah, super impressive in terms of the depth of thinking that's gone into it. Yeah, I mean, so I think Requin Blanc is correct. You know, Carlsen did choose Lichess organically in the past. You know, before the pandemic, Magnus Carlsen was playing quite regularly on Lichess, regularly donated back his prize fund when he took back in the titled arenas. So, you know, that was fantastic to see. But at the same time, he did, of course, have his own company, the Play Magnus Group, which was then purchased by chess.com. And in quite a frank interview with, I can't remember if it was with the Botez sisters or whether it was with Dina Belenkaya, but in one of those interviews, you know, Danny Wrench gave quite a frank answer that really the reason why chess.com bought the Play Magnus group was because they wanted Magnus. And they wanted Magnus as a kind of brand ambassador, and that was pretty much it. So, it's very natural that once Magnus was purchased by chess.com, became their brand ambassador. I don't know the full terms of the contract, but I heard various things reported about it, including, stocks and shares options, as well as money, etc. Then it's very natural that the Magnus Carlsen chess tour would go to chess.com because, where else would it go? They now own Magnus Carlsen and Magnus's brand. I mean, likewise with freestyle, freestyle chess was a project set up in collaboration with Magnus Carlsen. I mean, Magnus Carlsen is a business partner of freestyle chess. So again, it's very natural that the kind of business interests that Magnus has in freestyle would then also go to his other business interests in chess.com. And it was definitely, I think, a little bit frustrating and maybe upsetting that chess.com was the sole host of the freestyle world championship play-in. Last time that there was a Fischer Random or Chess 960 FIDE World Championship, the online qualifiers were played on both platforms. That was something that FIDE was quite explicit about. And we had Nodirbek Abdusattorov and Hikaru Nakamura, who eventually became, the world champion in Chess 960. They qualified through Lichess. So it was quite, I think, frustrating and upsetting to see that, freestyle didn't provide Lichess with those same rights, and it's because of these kind of exclusivity kind of contracts, so to speak. So yeah, I mean, it's generally been quite, I think, challenging anyway with freestyle. Probably last year they must have spent something like 20 million across all of the events that they had in Weissenhaus. The thing in Las Vegas was, was absolutely huge. I don't know for certain, but you're talking double-digit millions for sure. And in my opinion, it's a very much wasted legacy, complete waste of capital that could have had a really big impact in chess as a whole. And yeah, I mean, generally freestyle, they made it clear very early on that they had exclusivity with chess.com and it's all they were interested in. So even when chess.com has used Lichess's tools, for example, that happened in some of freestyle's broadcasts, some software, for example, there wasn't much interest in that. In fact, they actually denied that they did that for some time, and it took some convincing. They weren't interested in giving accreditation or media to Lichess, and so it was no surprise that Lichess didn't get online qualification rights there too. And then as touched on as well, you've said the new 2.7 million FIDE Total Chess Tour is also not on Lichess. Where concretely did Lichess lose this entire elite institutional layer? Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we ever had it in the first place, to be quite honest with you. I think Lichess has always been kind of the pro-grassroots sort of platform. And whether it's recoverable in the next 24 months, well, it depends what the landscape looks like in the next 24 months. Like, very honestly, I'm not sure if freestyle will exist in the next 24 months, or if it does, it will be very watered down. Yeah, I mean, I think, these sorts of tournaments are interesting and they're good overall. And I mean, as E3 Gewinit has said as well, giving top players money to play Chess 960 isn't the worst way to waste money. I mean, I agree with that principle overall. Like, I think the format was interesting. I think Chess 960 is interesting. I think supporting top chess players is ultimately good. But I do also think that, if you're spending something like 20 million on chess and you're kind of caring about legacy, a fraction of that could really go a long way in somewhere like South America or Africa or India, where there's a massive chess boom. I mean, I said earlier about Sagar doing this work in orphanages, for example. And yeah, I think it's just very frustrating to see so much capital being injected into chess and so little actually tangibly coming from it. And I think it's a very short-term move as well, because other people will look at this investment that Freestyle made into chess and see that it didn't pay off, and then be more reluctant to invest into new chess tournaments. I mean, okay, this doesn't seem to be happening with the Total Chess Tour, which is maybe slightly surprising to me. But, you know, if I were a millionaire or a billionaire or whatever looking at funding chess tournaments, and I said, okay, like, let's look at the previous one that you did. Oh, you know, the track record is Freestyle. I'd be like, okay. May as well just set the money on fire or something, or just give it to the top players rather than, you know, have a tournament. But yeah, so on the actual question as a whole, yeah, I don't think we had the entire elite institutional layer. I don't think we ever had. And whether it's recoverable, I don't think there's anything to actually recover there. I think as long as federations, grassroots, like, you know, players who just enjoy the game and want to play, are playing on Lichess, enjoying chess, like having fun, I think that's, you know, that's Lichess winning, to be honest. See someone saying that all these exclusivity contracts, etc., are bad for chess, and especially chess viewers. We're getting less that way. Credit to Lichess for not doing that. Well, yeah, thank you very much for that. We definitely don't do that because, from our opinion, you know, making a living within chess is already very challenging, and it shouldn't be made more challenging, at least in our opinion, by forcing people to only play on one platform, on certain tournaments, to restrict the opportunities or the viewers that they can get, again, you know, with exclusivity contracts for streaming, etc. It's ironic that people and entities who often promote the free market do whatever they can to restrict that free market in the first place. And this only comes, as Illustrious Bird, great username, has said, that it comes at the cost of the chess community and people trying to make a living for chess. So yeah, I agree with that as well. Right, we're still on Recon Blanc's questions, who have been pretty deep. There's still another 4 or so to go. Hypothetical, Eric Albest, who is Chess.com CEO, knocks on your door tomorrow with a $200 million acquisition offer, an ironclad legal guarantee that Lichess stays free, ad-free and open source forever, and a $50 million endowment for the non-profit shell. Do you take the meeting? What is the smallest change to that offer that would make you say yes? I don't actually know if I fully understand this question, to be honest. I think if I understand it correctly, they're saying that what would you do if Eric Albest offered $200 million to buy Lichess with guarantees, as well as a $50 million endowment, like a gift, to the non-profit entity as a whole. I'm not entirely sure why he would do that, because it doesn't say that, okay, it says an acquisition offer, but yeah, I mean, I don't think it's even worth thinking about this, like, and I think it's very difficult to imagine a world where even something like that is accepted. Yeah, a bit of a curious question. I would want a bit more clarification, I think, on that one. I mean, the fact that Lichess is a charity, I'm pretty sure you can't buy a charity. So, and the fact that Lichess is open source, you know, nothing stops someone from just making another Lichess. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure I understand this question, but Lichess can't be bought. So yeah. Then in 2020, their fourth question, they also asked this one about Immortal Game with the French Federation, which we've actually already touched on to some extent, so I won't go on to that one. Question 5, they've asked, by 2030, do you want Lichess to be #1 in market share or #1 in trust and #2 in volume, but financially impregnable? These are two completely different strategies, and the decisions of the next 18 months depend on which one you are actually optimizing for. Which is it, and what trade-off does that commit you to refusing? I mean, again, a very interesting question, but coming at it from a very kind of like business strategy sort of approach. Yeah, I mean, I think realistically, you know, this touches, I think, on the core of the tension to some extent between Lichess and chess.com. You know, I think they've definitely done a lot of good and provided a lot of innovation into chess. I think, you know, being a company ultimately gives them certain advantages, allows them to, for example, generate more capital than most charities can dream of. But I think we also have very different objectives. So at the moment, you know, chess.com appears to have very much a fiduciary duty, like set out by Milton Friedman, who was like an economist in the 1970s, who established something called the shareholder doctrine, where he basically said that, you know, the sole purpose of a company's existence is to create max profit for the shareholders, essentially. And sorry, I'm getting into kind of like an economics lecture at this point, but, you know, I think chess.com very much takes that kind of shareholder doctrine approach, quite 80s neoliberal sort of style. Whereas, you know, Lichess is a charity and our fiduciary duty is not to our shareholders because we don't have any. Our fiduciary duty, which is a special legal duty, which means that you need to put other people's interests before your own, is that of our beneficiaries, the charity's beneficiaries. So, you know, we ultimately, I think, want the best for the chess and the chess community, for people who play on Lichess, for people who might play on Lichess, for people who are just generally interested in chess as a whole. And I think this difference creates some tension. I mean, you know, sometimes trying to maximize profit for shareholders maybe can create outcomes which are also good for the community. But I think also, yeah, often you don't see that. Like in other industries where it's maybe a little bit more dramatic, you know, you see things like taking all drinkable water and selling it back to the people who used to just extract it from rivers or lakes. You know, not going to say any names, Nestle, but, you know, that's something that they definitely did. Or, you know, there's been things in the past as well with, you know, not refusing to recall unsafe cars because somebody did the calculation that, you know, it's cheaper to not recall the unsafe car and to just pay the lawsuits for the deaths and the injuries that result. I think that was the Ford Pinto case, if I remember my legal training correctly. You know, there's not these sort of dramatic things in chess to the same extent. But I think we are kind of seeing that the user experience is degrading on chess.com. You know, for example, there are ads after every game, including for predatory companies at this point, or at least what I would consider to be predatory companies, you know, gambling adverts when a user base is under 18, etc. There's a significant amount of personal data that seems to be harvested these days. You know, I think these are kind of coming to a detriment to chess more widely with less investment in chess, etc. You know, so that puts us into a tension when they make, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars from chess, but reinvest comparatively little back. If you look at it in terms of percentages of revenue and expenses, like I said at the very start, for example, in our content, you know, we contribute like 7.5% of our annual income back into the chess community directly through like the content and the stuff like that we do. I mean, at our scale, you know, that's something like $50,000-$60,000. If we were to take something like chess.com scale, for example, it would be comparatively, I don't know, like maybe near $15 million. So, you know, when you look at it in terms of percentages, that kind of feels like they're maybe not necessarily giving much back into chess that they could. And then you have these other practices, you know, like 3 puzzles a day, even locking deep local engine analysis behind a paywall. I mean, that's very puzzling to me because Stockfish is free and open source. Chess.com hasn't actually created that, and your local device is, you know, doing all of the work, paying the electricity. It's the CPU of the device. So things like that seem a little bit puzzling to me, and I think that kind of creates this tension. And it wasn't always like that. I mean, there were companies back in the past that looked for long-term profit rather than short-term profit. So, for example, in the UK, you had the Cadbury family who, back in the 1800s, you know, they provided like schools and houses and so on for their workers because, you know, they thought that happy and satisfied and intelligent workers would ultimately be better for the company long term. And you even have some companies today like that exist. I mean, I haven't done my like deep research into them, but like I know, you know, like the John Lewis partnership in the UK, for example, they try to have these kind of philosophies. Again, I'm not so sure because this is the other side of the Atlantic, but I think like Patagonia, that company, I think they also have more of a mentality like this. I think historically Ben and Jerry's did as well, but maybe they have their own various dramas going on at this point. I'm not so sure. So anyway, I think there's some tension because those fiduciary duties are not particularly aligned, like our visions are not so aligned. And you know, they've kind of gone on the attack against us recently. Again, like in interviews with Dina Balankaya and the Botes sisters, you know, Danny Wrench has said something along the lines of like Lichess has made a brand around ripping off our features and making them free and then attacking us religiously. And, you know, generally the only religious attacking that I've seen has been very much a one-way street in public. So yeah, it feels like it wasn't a coincidence that those were kind of made on big influencer channels, which were owned by chess.com. So yeah, sorry, quite a significant tangent from the question. But ultimately, I think what I'm trying to say is that because you're coming at it from quite a business development point of view, these are things that we don't really think about because our fiduciary duty and our kind of perspective on what's best for chess are very different for things like number one in market share. Number one in trust, I think we already are, and of course we would want to stay that as much as possible. And yeah, I think being number two in game volume, but financially impregnable and sustainable, yeah, that would be a great outcome overall. But it isn't ultimately something like market share that I think really drives us. I think it's the impact that we have on chess as a whole, and you know, the impact that we kind of have on the chess community as a whole. And whether that means we're number two in market share, but we're reaching and, you know, improving the lives of thousands, tens of thousands of children in India, in Africa, in South America, or around the world, that ultimately, to me, I think has more impact than being number one in market share and doing absolutely nothing with it, or at least nothing, you know, to those segments of the community, or kind of that demographic overall. So I think that would probably be my thoughts on that question. Just another thought on that as well. I mean, you know, for years as well, you know, chess.com and a lot of their influencers, they make a lot of jokes about like how Lichess ratings are inflated, which I think is kind of strange because I think anyone who is within chess or kind of follows chess closely knows a couple of things about rating systems, like that two rating pools cannot be directly compared, that Lichess, chess.com, and FIDE all use different rating systems. I mean, Lichess uses a modified version of Glico 2, if I remember correctly. Chess.com uses Glico 1, FIDE uses ELO, a modified version of ELO. And I think also last time I checked, chess.com allows you to choose where you want to start rating-wise. So you can start from anywhere from 400 to 2000. So it feels a little bit strange that, you know, people often kind of make these jokes about Lichess ratings being inflated, when I think anyone in chess, and particularly chess executives running a chess website, know these things or should know these things about rating systems. So, you know, the fact that they kind of make these jokes and lean into it, I think indicates, I think there should be questions about, you know, why they kind of make jokes about that. Either they don't know this about rating systems, in which case, why are they running a chess website? Or they do know it and they don't care and they just want to spread like misinformation and deception to the community to basically, you know, try and say that we don't know what we're doing rating-wise when Glico 2 is actually more accurate than Glico 1, the system that they use, because it adds volatility for more accuracy. Anyway, that's that's quite the sidetrack on question 5 of Requin Blanc's questions. Their final question was, AI has collapsed the cost of building world-class product features. A small team can now ship things that used to require chess.com-sized budgets. So what stops Lichess from shipping an AI coach, cloud, GPT, self-hosted, your call, that follows each player's progress, an AI-powered move trainer, personalized prep. And if the answer is money and developers, is it finally time to raise a real fund, hire full-time, and bankroll cash prize tournaments, or does that cross a line for you? Not sure where the bankrolling cash prize tournaments comes into it. The other bits definitely make sense. Like, you know, I understand where they're coming from. You know, it's maybe something that we would consider and explore in the future. At the moment, I think the technology is probably still a bit too nascent. Like, it still hasn't really proven itself yet, although there have obviously been promising things. And I think what the team at Take are doing is some of the most promising work out there so far. But yeah, I mean, I think maybe if it's possible in the future for this to be done more feasibly, once someone has kind of cracked the way to do it for us, then maybe we would consider that when the research has been published and so on. But I think for us to do the research and development ourselves, you know, we either require a lot of people with very specialized skill sets who are willing to donate and contribute a lot, which has kind of happened before. Erwin, one of our automated moderation tools, you know, it was someone who contributed their tools and skill sets back to that in 2014, and that had elements of machine learning and neural net in it, which was quite cutting edge back then. So yeah, not impossible. But yeah, I think probably, you know, the team is not set up in a way to take such a large project like this. And of course, a large part of it is money and developers as well. So a project like this would eat through money and require very specialized developers who are often in short supply and can command fortunes at, you know, OpenAI or, you know, wherever they will go to these days. But regarding whether it's finally time to raise a real fund, hire full-time, you know, we already hire full-time. And I think something like raising a real fund, I mean, wouldn't really be able to be done because we're a charity. And just not really sure if it's in our ethos either. I think we would just be more interested to try and, you know, find a solution that works for us rather than us changing ourselves to work for this solution. And I think that applies to a lot of things about Lichess and the chess world in general. We would rather find ways to make things work in a way for us rather than for us to change to work for them. So that's been an awful lot of questions. Let's see if I've missed any last quick ones. Touched on rating inflation. Let's have a look. Just give me a second as I'm going to look through some of the comments that I've missed when I went on my long tangent there. And I think probably at the most we've got another 20 minutes because that'll be 3 hours. But yes, let me just have a quick look at some of these questions. Okay, I'll take an easy one whilst I read through. Rudy Allen said, not sure if answered already, but was wondering how long you've been at Lichess, Theo, and how you started there. So yeah, good question, because I can't really remember myself. I think I began at Lichess around 20... So I found the website itself in 2011 when I was studying Russian. And a French friend of mine found the website and we were playing chess with each other through the platform. I think I was approached to be on the team in around 2014 or 2013, and I was helping with translation at that time and also moderation, just voluntarily. You know, it was just an interesting project to me because it had really been something I'd really enjoyed since finding it since 2011. And I was very fortunate to get to know the team better and to get to know Thibault better. And I was very inspired by his vision. And I think the way that he views things overall was quite kind of influential. And Yeah, I mean, I finished university. In the end, I did a law degree because Russian was too difficult, and worked in law for some time after that. And I was still contributing to Lichess, kind of in the more legal sort of area at that time. GDPR was coming out in like 2016, if I remember correctly. So I kind of helped out there with the changes that were required. And then I was working in kind of financial regulation, so I kind of helped with the financial side, the paperwork, etc. Yeah, and then during the pandemic, there was obviously a big boom in activity in players in chess, and you know, I was very fortunate to be asked if I would consider doing the work that I had been doing for Lichess more full time, and yeah, and it kind of went from there. And I decided to give it a shot for you know, a year or two, and if it didn't work out, I would go back into law. But yeah, that was like 4 or 5 years ago now. So yeah, but I've been part of the team, began as a volunteer for over a decade at this point. So yeah, thanks for that. There's the rating inflation question I just saw. Ben and Jerry separated from Unilever before Unilever became solely British to preserve their identity. Okay, I didn't know that. Deep says, who stole Puzzle Rush, lol. Yeah, well, I mean, I think actually, you know, Lichess, we did implement Puzzle Rush, or in our case, Puzzle Storm, later than chess.com did. But there was actually a website called Blitz Tactics, which was based from 2016, which existed before that. And yeah, Blitz Tactics had the exact same concept and the exact same puzzles. And I think those were ultimately taken by chess.com in 2018. That's when Puzzle Rush came. So yeah, I wouldn't say it was stealing, but Blitz Tactics, I think, had that kind of concept and that idea down beforehand, which, by the way, I'm pretty sure Blitz Tactics used Lichess code. So it's another one of those ways that, you know, Lichess has contributed to many things. I recently discovered that every puzzle in Lichess is manually approven and categorized, but by whom? Can you please tell me something about these people, their work, and how they're hired? Thank you. This is by Meganoob, well, I want to say Leet, but 1337. So, as I understand it, got to have a big shout out of appreciation to Dirk, who's done a lot of work here. I'm not entirely sure actually how it works technically, but I think a lot of puzzles are automatically categorized, and then users who succeed them can also tag them and, you know, vote, for example, or approve that the tag was correct. So it's kind of a community approach in the end to some extent, even though the initial step is often done, you know, by a kind of automatic categorization. And it's an open source tool called Lichess Puzzler, which actually generates the puzzles from Lichess positions. And then those are then given to players who try those puzzles, vote on them, and the ones which go past a certain threshold in voting are then delivered more widely to the rest of the Lichess community. So yeah, it's mainly a community effort rather than something where, you know, a small team is working and hired on. So yeah. Let's have a look a bit more. Deeps has asked, what is your favorite stock to buy? Lol. I don't even know what stock is. Sanket Joshi has said, hey Theo, is there a possibility of working or contributing to Lichess? So yeah, I would recommend going to lichess.org/contribute. And I see actually that Armstark, who is our content coordinator, has already shared the link in the chat. So, you know, I recommend looking through there. I also touched on it earlier in one of the answers at the start of this session. But yeah, that would be great to touch on there. I think just like, yeah, 2 or 3 more questions, then we'll call it a day. So if you've got anything super pressingly urgent, make sure to get it in. Let's just have a look at some of the others from a bit longer ago, which I've missed. One quick question here. Somebody called Flavius Chess asked, why does my rating have a question mark? And I played 30 games. Sorry, I just saw in the chat Wesley Hotmans is talking about a stock called Luna. Anyway, so Flavius Chess, why my rating has question mark and I played 30 games. If your rating has a question mark, it means that your rating is provisional. Usually it means that you haven't played enough games or that there's some rating deviation. So it could either be 30 games would be enough to break that provisional rating. So it's most likely that you haven't played for some time and your rating is now unpredictable because it's got some volatility due to not having played for a while. So that's probably most likely in that case. Okay, let's have a quick look here. I like that we're ending up having a little conversation in the chat now about space exploration. Right, okay. Please, sir, can you all make multiple pre-moves on Lichess? Says Mihalio. Yeah, I mean, we don't plan to do that. We quite like the way that we have it at the moment. I think it's the right balance between skill and also speed. So yeah, no plans to make multiple pre-moves on Lichess. There's one here on Reddit by the Discussian. What can I do as a Lichess lover to bring back the tie-dye Lichess shirts? I really love them. Well, we do have a merchandise store, lichess.org/swag. So you can check out which things we kind of sell there. Get your t-shirts and so on. I think the tie-dye t-shirt was a great one. I think personally getting it in Rainbow or Blue Lagoon would have been a fantastic choice personally. But yeah, I think the US store still stocks it, but maybe not Europe. I mean, ultimately, the supplier that we use, Spreadshirt, they decide which items are stocked and not stocked. So unfortunately, it has nothing to do with us, and we're not big enough to pressure them to bring them back. But we're always looking to try and do new things with our merchandise. So maybe it's possible that later on in the year there might be something going on there. But at the time being, yeah, tie-dye shirts are only available in the US. Right. Let's go for one or two more. On YouTube, someone called Parade271 asked, is there a reason speedrun accounts are banned? Many masters use them as educational tools, and it would be wonderful if it's allowed on Lichess. Yeah, we don't support or encourage speedrunning. We think it's unfair. It's kind of sandbagging to newer or weaker players. So yeah, we'd say don't speedrun on Lichess. The rating system is designed to get high-rated players to the correct rating quickly, and the speedruns that happen on other sites is only possible by manipulating that rating system to gain rating more slowly. So yeah, we consider it rating manipulation if you get your rating down to have a low rating to do a speed run, and unfortunately there's no way at the moment to have a low rating to do a speed run on Lichess, so please don't try it. I think final question. Let's have a look. I think in terms of final question, we will touch on the Leela code base. Someone on YouTube, Dirda3209, they said, I'd love to contribute to the Lichess code and or integrate it into my own programs. Where do I go to learn how the existing code works? Looking at the source whole code directly is quite overwhelming. There's a few things here that would be suggested. DeepWiki is quite a useful tool that writes code documentation. It helps a lot with onboarding new contributors, and the link to that is actually also in the README of DeepWiki. Someone, I think, will share the link to that in the chat. There you go. Thank you very much. And regarding the development environment, we also had Gitpod, which actually allows you to set up a remote instance of Gitpod developer servers, but they've changed business activity, and unfortunately, Gitpod is not a solution. So if you are interested to contribute to the code base, I'd recommend looking firstly through DeepWiki, and then secondly, get in touch on the Discord with our developers. So I think someone will hopefully also share the link to the Discord where you can also contact our developers. That's quite a few questions that we've gone through. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. It's over 30 questions that we've done. So I think we'll call it a day there, and also allow the production team and the content team to get some rest. So, thank you everyone for coming, asking these questions, being part of Lichess and the community overall. And yeah, very grateful for all of the questions that were asked, and hopefully we'll do one of these again very soon. Thank you as well for the kind words about the candidates and everything, and the work that Lichess is doing. So, thank you very much again. Hope you all have a lovely night, and that everything goes well for the rest of this, the rest of the weekend, if you still have a weekend, and the rest of your week ahead. So thank you very much for being here, and take care.
I done done it. If the beat stop running, I'ma still go 100. I'm the one y'all wanna kick it rid of me, baby. I'm not dumb, baby. I'm a G, baby. They be looking at me like he crazy, and I know that's just how I go. That's what happens when you stay. They want you to go, and when you try to plant a seed, they won't let it grow. But you still gotta rain on them and put some game on them, yeah. Rain dance, I'ma make it splash. They had enough, but I'm still carrying the flag. We don't play around, don't you judge us on the past. Yeah, we better now than never. You should say the best for last, okay? We here to stay, me and the squad all day. They here to stay, and we don't never go away. We here to stay, I got them saying okay. They here to stay.
I'ma stay right where I'm at. Tell me what's better than that. What's better than that? I'ma stay right where I'm at. Tell me what's better than that.
Yo, I've been on fire like 100 in the valley, boy. Pull up if you feeling froggy, I give out the addy, boy. Team yelling at a boy, cause between the cake and the hits, I be making this greatness inside this batter, boy. Best believe I'm on a wave right now, cause everyone else sound the same right now, yeah. I wanna make a change right now. Let's rain on them and put some game on them, yeah. Rain dance, I'ma make it splash. they had enough, but I'm still carrying the flag. We don't play around, don't you judge us on the past. Yeah, we better now than ever, you should say the best for last. Okay, we here to stay, me and the squad all day. They here to stay, and we don't never go.